The modern scripture, a Zen Buddhist Bible, is brought to you by Not a Prophet org, the place on the internet to find spiritual guidance powered by artificial intelligence. Chapter XI, Bodhisattvahood and its stages. Then said Mahamati to the Blessed One, "Will you tell us now about the disciples who are Bodhisattvas?" The Blessed One replied, "The Bodhisattvas are those earnest disciples who are enlightened by reason of their efforts to attain self-realization of noble wisdom, and who have taken upon themselves the task to enlighten others. They have gained a clear understanding of the truth that all things are empty, born, and of a Maya-like nature. They have ceased from viewing things discriminatively and from considering them in their relations. They thoroughly understand the truth of twofold egolessness and have adjusted themselves to it with patient acceptance. They have attained a definite realization of imagelessness, and they are abiding in the perfect knowledge that they have gained by self-realization of noble wisdom. Well stamped by the seal of suchness, they entered upon the first of the Bodhisattva stages. The first stage is called the stage of joy pramudita. Entering this stage is like passing out of the glare and shadows into a realm of no shadows. It is like passing out of the noise and tumult of the crowded city into the quietness of solitude. The Bodhisattva feels within himself the awakening of a great heart of compassion, and he utters his 10 original vows to honor and serve all Buddhas, to spread the knowledge and practice of Dharma, to welcome all coming Buddhas, to practice the 6 paramitas, to persuade all beings to embrace the Dharma, to attain a perfect understanding of the universe, to attain a perfect understanding of tile mutuality of all beings, to attain perfect self-realization of the oneness of all the Buddhas and Tathagatas and self-nature, purpose, and resources, to become acquainted with all skillful means for the carrying out of these vows for the emancipation of all beings, to realize supreme enlightenment through the perfect self-realization of noble wisdom, ascending the stages and entering Tathagatahood. In the spirit of these vows, the Bodhisattva gradually ascends the stages to the 6th. All earnest disciples, masters and arhats have ascended thus far, but being enchanted by the bliss of the samadhi, and not being supported by the powers of the Buddhas, they pass to their Nirvana. The same fate would befall the Bodhisattvas, except for the sustaining power of the Buddhas. By that they are enabled to refuse to enter Nirvana, until all beings can enter Nirvana with them. The Tathagatas point out to them the virtues of Buddhahood which are beyond the conception of the intellectual mind, and they encourage and strengthen the Bodhisattvas not to give in to enchantment of the bliss of the samadhis, but to press on to further advancement along the stages. If the Bodhisattvas had entered Nirvana at this stage, and they would have done so without the sustaining power of the Buddhas, there would have been the cessation of all things, and the family of the Tathagatas would have become extinct. Strengthened by the new strength that comes to them from the Buddhas, and with the more perfect insight that is theirs by reason of their advance in self-realization of noble wisdom, they re-examine the nature of the mind, system, the egolessness of personality, and the part that grasping and attachment and habit, energy play in the unfolding drama of life. They re-examine the illusions of fourfold logical analysis and the various elements that enter into enlightenment and self-realization. And in the thrill of their new powers of self-mastery, the Bodhisattvas enter upon the 7th stage of far-going Durangama. Supported by the sustaining power of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas at this stage enter into the bliss of the samadhi of perfect tranquilization. Owing to their original vows, they are transported by emotions of love and compassion as they become aware of the part they are to perform in the carrying out of their vows for the emancipation of all beings. Thus they do not enter into nirvana, but in truth, they too are already in nirvana, because in their emotions of love and compassion there is no rising of discrimination, henceforth with them. Discrimination no more takes place. Because of transcendental intelligence, only one conception is present, the promotion of the realization of noble wisdom. Their insight issues from the womb of Tathagatahood, and they enter into their task with spontaneity and radiancy, because it is of the self-nature of noble wisdom. This is called the Bodhisattva's Nirvana, the losing oneself in the bliss of perfect self-yielding. This is the seventh stage, the stage of far going. The eighth stage is the stage of no-recession, akala. Up to this stage, because of the defilements upon the face of universal mind caused by the accumulation of habit, energy since beginningless time, the mind system and all that pertains to it has been evolved and sustained. The mind system functioned by the discriminations of an external and objective world to which it became attached and by which it was perpetuated. But with the Bodhisattva's attainment of the eighth stage there comes the turning about within his deepest consciousness from self-centered egoism to universal compassion for all beings, by which he attains perfect self-realization of noble wisdom. There is an instant cessation of the delusive activities of the whole mind system. The dancing of the waves of habit, energy on the face of universal mind are forever stilled, revealing its own inherent quietness and solitude, the inconceivable oneness of the womb of Tathagatahood. Henceforth there is no more looking outward upon an external world by senses and minds, nor a discrimination of particularized concepts and ideas and propositions by an intellectual mind, no more grasping, nor attachment, nor pride of egoism, nor habit, energy. Henceforth there is only the inner experience of noble wisdom, which has been attained by entering into its perfect oneness. Thus establishing himself at the eighth stage of no-recession, the Bodhisattva enters into the bliss of the 10 samadhis, but avoiding the path of the disciples and masters who yielded themselves up to their entrancing bliss and who passed to their nirvanas, and supported by his vows and the transcendental intelligence which now is his, and being sustained by the power of the Buddhas, he enters upon the higher paths that lead to Tathagatahood. He passes through the bliss of the samad, his to assume the transformation body of a Tathagata, that through him all beings may be emancipated. Mahamati, if there had been no Tathagata womb and no divine mind, then there would have been no rising and disappearance of the aggregates that make up personality and its external world, no rising and disappearance of ignorant people nor holy people, and no task for bodhisattvas. Therefore, while walking in the path of self-realization and entering into the enjoyments of the samad, you must never abandon working hard for the emancipation of all beings and yourself. Yielding love will never be in vain. To philosophers the conception of Tathagata womb seems devoid of purity and soiled by these external manifestations, but it is not so understood by the Tathagatas. To them it is not a proposition of philosophy, but is an intuitive experience as real as though it was an amalaka fruit held in the palm of the hand. With the cessation of the mind system and all its evolving discriminations, there is cessation of all strain and effort. It is like a man in a dream who imagines he is crossing a river, and who exerts himself to the utmost to do so, who is suddenly awakened. Being awake, he thinks, is this real or is it unreal? Being now enlightened, he knows that it is neither real nor unreal. Thus, when the Bodhisattva arrives at the eighth stage, he is able to see all things truthfully, and more than that, he is able to thoroughly understand the significance of all the dream-like things of his life, as to how they came to pass, and as to how they pass away. Ever since beginningless time the mind system has perceived multiplicities of forms and conditions and ideas which the thinking mind has discriminated, and the empirical mind has experienced and grasped and clung to. From this has risen habit, energy that by its accumulation has conditioned the illusions of existence and non-existence, individuality and generality, and has thus perpetuated the dream state of false imagination. But now, to the bodhisattvas of the eighth stage, life is past and is remembered as it truly was a passing dream. As long as the bodhisattva had not passed the seventh stage, even though he had attained an intuitive understanding of the true meaning of life and its Maya-like nature, and as to how the mind carried on its discriminations and attachments, yet, nevertheless, the cherishing of the notions of these things had continued, and, although he no longer experienced within himself any ardent desire for things nor any impulse to grasp them yet. Nevertheless, the notions concerning them persisted and perfumed his efforts to practice the teachings of the Buddhas, and to labor for the emancipation of all beings. Now, in the 8th stage, even the notions have passed away, and all effort and striving is seen to be unnecessary. The Bodhisattva's nirvana is perfect tranquilization, but it is not extinction nor inertness. While there is an entire absence of discrimination and purpose, there is the freedom and spontaneity of potentiality that has come with the attainment and patient acceptance of the truths of egolessness and imagelessness. Here is perfect solitude, undisturbed by any gradation or continuous succession, but radiant with the potency and freedom of its self-nature, which is the self-nature of noble wisdom, blissfully peaceful with the serenity of perfect love. Entering upon the 8th stage with the turning, about at the deepest seat of consciousness, the Bodhisattva will become conscious that he has received the second kind of transcendental body, mename akaya. The transition from mortal body to transcendental body has nothing to do with mortal death, for the old body continues to function, and the old mind serves the needs of the old body, but now it is free from the control of mortal mind. There has been an inconceivable transformation, death ascentio paranamus yudi, by which the false imagination of his particularized individual personality has been transcended by a realization of his oneness with the universalized mind of Tathagatahood, from which realization there will be no recession. With that realization, he finds himself amply endowed with all the Tathagata's powers, psychic faculties, and self-mastery. And just as the good earth is the support of all beings in the world of desire karmadhatu, so the Tathagatas become the support of all beings in the transcendental world of no form. The first 7 of the Bodhisattva stages were in the realm of mind, and the 8th, while transcending mind, was still in touch with it. But in the 9th stage of Transcendental Intelligence, Mahamati, by reason of his perfect intelligence and insight into the imagelessness of divine mind, which he had attained by self-realization of noble wisdom, he is in the realm of Tathagatahood. Gradually the Bodhisattva will realize his Tathagata nature in the possession of all its powers and psychic faculties, self-mastery, loving compassion, and skillful means, and by means of them will enter into all the Buddha lands. Making use of these new powers, the Bodhisattva will assume various transformation, bodies and personalities for the sake of benefiting others. Just as in the former mental life, imagination had risen from relative knowledge, so now skillful means rise spontaneously from transcendental intelligence. It is like the magical gem that reflects instantaneously appropriate responses to one's wishes. The Bodhisattva passes over to all the assemblages of the Buddhas and listens to them as they discourse on the dream, like nature of all things, and concerning the truths that transcend all notions of being and non-being, that have no relation to birth and death, nor to eternality, nor extinction. Thus facing the Tathagatas as they discourse on noble wisdom that is far beyond the mental capacity of disciples and masters, he will attain 100,000 samad, his, indeed, 100,000 nutas of kodis of samad his, and in the spirit of these samad, his, he will instantly pass from one Buddha and to another, paying homage to all the Buddhas, being born into all the celestial mansions, manifesting Buddha bodies, and himself discoursing on the triple treasure to lesser bodhisattvas, that they too may partake of the fruits of self-realization of noble wisdom. Thus passing beyond the last stage of Bodhisattvahood, he becomes a Tathagata, himself endowed with all the freedom of the Dharmakaya. The 10th stage belongs to the Tathagatas. Here the Bodhisattva will find himself seated upon a lotus, like throne in a splendid jewel-adorned palace, and surrounded by bodhisattvas of equal rank. Buddhas from all the Buddha lands will gather about him, and with their pure and fragrant hands resting on his forehead, will give him ordination and recognition as one of themselves. Then they will assign him a Buddha land that he may possess and perfect as his own. The 10th stage is called the Great Truth Cloud Dharmaim, inconceivable, inscrutable. Only the Tathagatas can realize its perfect imagelessness and oneness and solitude. It is Mahesvara, the radiant land, the pure land, the land of far distances, surrounding and surpassing the lesser worlds of form and desire karmadhatu, in which the Bodhisattva will find himself at one ment. Its rays of noble wisdom, which is the self-nature of the Tathagatas, many, colored, entrancing, auspicious, are transforming the triple world as other worlds have been transformed in the past, and still other worlds will be transformed in the future. But in the perfect oneness of noble wisdom there is no gradation, nor succession, nor effort. The 10th stage is the first is the 8th is the 5th is the 7th. What gradation can there be where perfect imagelessness and oneness prevail? And what is the reality of noble wisdom? It is the ineffable potency of the Dharmakaya. It has no bounds nor limits. It surpasses all the Buddha lands and pervades the Akanistha and the heavenly mansions of the Tushita. Chapter XII. Tathagatahood, which is noble wisdom. Then said Mahamati to the Blessed One, "It has been taught in the canonical books that the Buddhas are subject to neither birth nor destruction. And you have said that the unborn is one of the names of the Tathagatas. Does that mean that the Tathagata is a non-entity?" The Blessed One replied, "The Tathagata is not a non-entity, nor is he to be conceived as other things are, as neither born nor disappearing, nor is he subject to causation, nor is he without significance, yet I refer to him as the unborn. There is yet another name for the Tathagata, the mine, the appearing one, Manamayakaya, which his essence, body assumes at will in the transformations incident to his work of emancipation. This is beyond the understanding of common disciples and masters, and even beyond the full comprehension of those Bodhisattvas who remain in the 7th stage. Yes, Mahamati, the unborn, is synonymous with Tathagata." Then Mahamati said, "If the Tathagatas are unborn, there does not seem to be anything to take hold of no entity, or is there something that bears another name than entity? And what can that something be?" The Blessed One replied, "Objects are frequently known by different names according to different aspects that they present. The god Indra is sometimes known as Shakra, and sometimes as Purandara. These different names are sometimes used interchangeably, and sometimes they are discriminated. But different objects are not to be imagined because of the different names, nor are they without individuation. The same can be said of myself as I appear in this world of patience before ignorant people, and where I am known by uncounted trillions of names. They address me by different names, not realizing that they are all names of the one Tathagata. Some recognize me as Tathagata, some as the self-existent one, some as Gautama the ascetic, some as Buddha. Then there are others who recognize me as Brahma, as Vishnu, as Ishvara. Some see me as sun, as moon, some as a reincarnation of the ancient sages, some as one of the 10 powers, some as Rama, some as Indra, and some as Varuna. Still, there are others who speak of me as the unborn, as emptiness, as suchness, as truth, as reality, as ultimate principle. Still there are others who see me as Dharmakaya, as Nirvana, as the eternal. Some speak of me as sameness, as non-duality, as undying, as formless. Some think of me as the doctrine of Buddha causation, or of emancipation, or of the noble path, and some think of me as divine mind and noble wisdom. Thus in this world and in other worlds am I known by these uncounted names, but they all see me as the moon is seen in water. Though they all honor, praise, and esteem me, they do not fully understand the meaning and significance of the words they use. Not having their own self-realization of truth, they cling to the words of their canonical books, or to what has been told them, or to what they have imagined, and fail to see that the name they are using is only one of the many names of the Tathagata. In their studies, they follow the mere words of the text, vainly trying to gain the true meaning, instead of having confidence in the one text, where self-confirming truth is revealed, that is, having confidence in the self-realization of noble wisdom. Then said Mahamati, "Pray tell us, Blessed One, about the self-nature of the Tathagatas." The Blessed One replied, "If the Tathagata is to be described by such expressions as made or unmade, effect or cause, we would have to describe him as neither made, nor unmade, nor effect, nor cause, but if we so described him, we would be guilty of dualistic discrimination. If the Tathagata is something made, he would be impermanent. If he is impermanent, anything made would be a Tathagata. If he is something unmade, then all effort to realize Tathagatahood would be useless. That which is neither an effect nor a cause is neither a being nor a non-being, and that which is neither a being nor a non-being is outside the four propositions. The four propositions belong to worldly usage. That which is outside them is no more than a word, like a barren, woman's child. So are all the terms concerning the Tathagata to be understood. When it is said that all things are egoless, it means that all things are devoid of selfhood. Each thing may have its own individuality. The being of a horse is not of cow nature. It is such as it is of its own nature, and is thus discriminated by the ignorant. But, nevertheless, its own nature is of the nature of a dream or a vision. That is why the ignorant and the simple-minded, who are in the habit of discriminating appearances, fail to understand the significance of egolessness. It is not until discrimination is gotten rid of that the fact that all things are empty, unborn, and without self-nature can be appreciated. Mahamati, all these expressions as applied to the Tathagatas are without meaning, for that which is none of these is something removed from all measurement, and that which is removed from all measurement turns into a meaningless word. That which is a mere word is something unborn. That which is unborn is not subject to destruction. That which is not subject to destruction is like space. And space is neither effect nor cause. That which is neither effect nor cause is something unconditioned. That which is unconditioned is beyond all reasoning. That which is beyond all reasoning, that is the Tathagata. The self-nature of Tathagatahood is far removed from all predicates and measurements. The self-nature of Tathagatahood is noble wisdom. Then Mahamati said to the Blessed One, "Are the Tathagatas permanent or impermanent?" The Blessed One replied, "The Tathagatas are neither permanent nor impermanent. If either is asserted, there is error connected with it. If the Tathagata is said to be permanent, then he will be connected with the creating agencies, for, according to the philosophers, the creating agencies are something uncreated and permanent. But the Tathagatas are not connected with the so-called creating agencies, and in that sense he is impermanent. If he is said to be impermanent, then he is connected with things that are created, for they also are impermanent. For these reasons the Tathagatas are neither permanent nor impermanent. Neither can the Tathagatas be said to be permanent in the sense that space is said to be permanent, or that the horns of a hare can be said to be permanent, for, being unreal, they exclude all ideas of permanency or impermanency. This does not apply to the Tathagatas, because they come forth from the habit, energy of ignorance, which is connected with the mind, system, and the elements that make up personality. The triple world originates from the discrimination of unrealities, and where discrimination takes place there is duality and the notion of permanency and impermanency. But the Tathagatas do not rise from the discrimination of unrealities. Thus, as long as there is discrimination, there will be the notion of permanency and impermanency. When discrimination is done away with, noble wisdom, which is based on the significance of solitude, will be established. However, there is another sense in which the Tathagatas may be said to be permanent. Transcendental intelligence, rising with the attainment of enlightenment, is of a permanent nature. This truth essence, which is discoverable in the enlightenment of all who are enlightened, is realizable as the regulative and sustaining principle of reality, which forever abides. The transcendental intelligence attained intuitively by the Tathagatas by their self-realization of noble wisdom is a realization of their own self-nature. In this sense the Tathagatas are permanent, the eternal. Unthinkable of the Tathagatas is the suchness of noble wisdom realized within themselves. It is both eternal and beyond thought. It conforms to the idea of a cause, and yet is beyond existence and non-existence. Because it is the exalted state of noble wisdom, it has its own character. Because it is the cause of highest reality, it is its own causation. Its eternality is not derived from reasonings based on external notions of being and non-being, nor of eternality nor non-eternality. Being classed under the same head as space, cessation, nirvana, it is eternal. Because it has nothing to do with existence and non-existence, it is no creator. Because it has nothing to do with creation, nor with being and non-being, but is only revealed in the exalted state of noble wisdom, it is truly eternal. When the twofold passions are destroyed, and the twofold hindrances are cleared away, and the twofold egolessness is fully understood, and the inconceivable transformation death of the Bodhisattva is attained, that which remains is the self-nature of the Tathagatas. When the teachings of the Dharma are fully understood, and are perfectly realized by the disciples and masters, that which is realized in their deepest consciousness is their own Buddhan, revealed as Tathagata. In a true sense, there are four kinds of sameness relating to Buddha nature. There is sameness of letters, sameness of words, sameness of meaning, and sameness of essence. The name Buddha is spelt B-U-D-E-H-A. The letters are the same when used for any Buddha or Tathagata. When the Brahmins teach, they use various words, and when the Tathagatas teach, they use the very same words. In respect to words, there is a sameness between us. In the teachings of all the Tathagatas, there is a sameness of meaning. Among all the Buddhas, there is a sameness of Buddha nature. They all have the 32 marks of excellence and the 80 minor signs of bodily perfection. There is no distinction among them except as they manifest various transformations according to the different dispositions of beings, who are to be disciplined and emancipated by various means. In the ultimate essence, which is Dharmakaya, all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future are of one sameness. Then said Mahamati to the Blessed One, "It has been said by the Blessed One that from the night of the enlightenment to the night of the parinirvana, the Tathagata has uttered no word nor ever will utter a word. In what deep meaning is this true?" The Blessed One replied, "By two reasons of deepest meaning is it true, in the light of the truth self, realized by noble wisdom, and in the truth of an eternally abiding reality. The self-realization of noble wisdom by all the Tathagatas is the same as my own self-realization of noble wisdom. There is no more, no less, no difference, and all the Tathagatas bear witness that the state of self-realization is free from words and discriminations, and has nothing to do with the dualistic way of speaking. That is, all beings receive the teachings of the Tathagatas through self-realization of noble wisdom, not through words of discrimination. Again, Mahamati, there has always been an eternally abiding reality. This substance of truth, Dharmadhatu, abides forever, whether a Tathagata appears in the world or not. So does the reason of all things, Dharmata, eternally abide. So does reality, Paramartha, abide and keep its order. What has been realized by myself and all other Tathagatas is this reality, Dharmakaya, the eternally abiding self-orderliness of reality, the suchness, Tathata of things, the realness of things, Bhutata, noble wisdom, which is truth itself. The sun radiates its splendor spontaneously on all alike, and with no words of explanation. In like manner do the Tathagatas radiate the truth of noble wisdom, with no recourse to words, and to all alike. For these reasons is it stated by me, that from the night of the enlightenment to the night of the Tathagatas parinirvana, he has not uttered, nor ever will he utter, one word. And the same is true of all the Buddhas. Then said Mahamati, Blessed One, you speak of the sameness of all the Buddhas, but in other places you have spoken of Dharmata Buddha, Nishyanda Buddha, and Nirvana Buddha, as though they were different from each other. How can they be the same and yet different? The Blessed One replied, I speak of the different Buddhas as opposed to the views of the philosophers who base their teachings on the reality of an external world of form, and who cherish discriminations and attachments arising therefrom. Against the teachings of these philosophers I disclose the Nirvana Buddha, the Buddha of transformations. In the many transformations of the Tathagata stage, the Nirvana Buddha establishes such matters as charity, morality, patience, thoughtfulness, and tranquilization. By right knowledge he teaches the true understanding of the Maya-like nature of the elements that make up personality and its external world. He teaches the true nature of the mind, system as a whole, and in the distinctions of its forms, functions, and ways of performance. In a deeper sense, the Nirvana Buddha symbolizes the principles of differentiation and integration by reason of which all component things are distributed, all complexities simplified, all thoughts analyzed. At the same time, it symbolizes the harmonizing, unifying power of sympathy and compassion. It removes all obstacles, it harmonizes all differences, it brings into perfect oneness discordant many. For the emancipation of all beings, the Bodhisattvas and Tathagatas assume bodies of transformation and employ many skillful devices. This is the work of the Nirvana Buddha. For the enlightenment of the Bodhisattvas and their sustaining along the stages, the inconceivable is made realizable. The Nishiyanda Buddha, the outflowing Buddha, through Transcendental Intelligence, reveals the true meaning and significance of appearances, discrimination, attachment, and of the power of habit, energy which is accumulated by them and conditions them, and of the unbornness, the emptiness, the egolessness of all things. Because of Transcendental Intelligence and the purification of the evil outflowings of life, all dualistic views of existence and non-existence are transcended, and by self-realization of noble wisdom, the true imagelessness of reality is made manifest. The inconceivable glory of Buddhahood is made manifest in rays of noble wisdom. Noble wisdom is the self-nature of the Tathagatas. This is the work of the Nishiyanda Buddha. In a deeper sense, the Nishiyanda Buddha symbolizes the emergence of the principles of intellection and compassion, but as yet undifferentiated and in perfect balance, potential but unmanifest. Looked at from the ingoing side of the Bodhisattvas, Nishiyanda Buddha is seen in the glorified bodies of the Tathagatas. Looked at from the forthgoing side of Buddhahood, Nishiyanda Buddha is seen in the radiant personalities of the Tathagatas, ready and eager to manifest the inherent love and wisdom of the Dharmakaya. Dharmata Buddha is Buddhahood in its self-nature of perfect oneness, in whom absolute tranquility prevails. As noble wisdom, Dharmata Buddha transcends all differentiated knowledge, is the goal of intuitive self-realization, and is the self-nature of the Tathagatas. As noble wisdom, Dharmata Buddha is inscrutable, ineffable, unconditioned. Dharmata Buddha is the ultimate principle of reality, from which all things derive their being and truthfulness, but which in itself transcends all predicates. Dharmata Buddha is the central sun which holds all, illumines all. Its inconceivable essence is made manifest in the outflowing glory of Nishiyanda Buddha and in the transformations of Nirvana Buddha. Then said Mahamati, "Pray tell us, Blessed One, more about the Dharmakaya." The Blessed One replied, "We have been speaking of it in terms of Buddhahood, but as it is inscrutable and beyond predicate, we may just as well speak of it as the truth, body, or the truth, principle of ultimate reality, Paramartha. This ultimate principle of reality may be considered as it is manifested under 7 aspects. First, as Siddhagara, it is the world of spiritual experience and the abode of the Tathagatas on their outgoing mission of emancipation. It is noble wisdom manifested as the principle of irradiancy and individuation. Second, as Jnana, it is the mind, world, and its principle of intellection and consciousness. Third, as Dristi, it is the realm of dualism, which is the physical world of birth and death, wherein are manifested all the differentiations of thinker, thinking and thought about, and wherein are manifested the principles of sensation, perception, discrimination, desire, attachment, and suffering. Fourth, because of the greed, anger, infatuation, suffering and need of the physical world incident to discrimination and attachment, it reveals a world beyond the realm of dualism wherein it appears as the integrating principle of charity and sympathy. Fifth, in a realm still higher, which is the abode of the Bodhisattva stages, and is analogous to the mind, world, where the interests of heart transcend those of the mind, it appears as the principle of compassion and self-giving. Sixth, in the spiritual realm where the Bodhisattvas attain Buddhahood, it appears as the principle of perfect love, Karuna. Here the last clinging to an ego self is abandoned, and the Bodhisattva enters into his self-realization of noble wisdom, which is the bliss of the Tathagata's perfect enjoyment of his inmost nature. Seventh, as prajna, it is the active aspect of the ultimate principle wherein both the fourth, going, and the incoming principles are alike, implicit and potential, and wherein both wisdom and love are in perfect balance, harmony, and oneness. These are the 7 aspects of the ultimate principle of Dharmakaya, by reason of which all things are made manifest and perfected and then reintegrated, and all remaining within its inscrutable oneness with no signs of individuation, nor beginning, nor succession, nor ending. We speak of it as Dharmakaya, as ultimate principle, as Buddhahood, as Nirvana. What matters it? They are only other names for noble wisdom. Mahamati, you and all the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas should avoid the erroneous reasonings of the philosophers, and seek for a self-realization of noble wisdom.